Do you make things out of other people's junk? Are you an upcycler? And are you interested in either starting a business that hopefully one day will become your livelihood, or maybe turning the business you already have that's kind of a side hustle, hobby thing, into what you do as your career and your job? If that's you, then this free training is for you. I've got 5 key areas we're going to go over, and I think it's going to be lots of fun. So stick around. Do you want to make your living doing what you love? Do you want to know how to find your ideal customers? I can't wave a magic wand, but I can give you a clear way forward. Once you learn how to get set up right, all you have to do is repeat. It gets easier and easier and easier. A bit about me. My name's Kristen Hubert. I run the website Upcycle My Stuff. It's a DIY upcycling tutorial blog, and we also have a directory of really cool small upcycling businesses that we support and promote. But the background to how I got here is I used to have an upcycling business of my own. It was called Heirlooms Headpieces. It was vintage bridal headpieces, fancy things made out of vintage jewellery, and I sold them to brides, obviously, first who wanted something unique for their big day, and I really liked doing that. But I always ran it kind of as a hobby business, as a side thing along with my day job. I did pretty well at it. I managed to break even, make a little profit, and it was starting to grow. But I gave it up when my father died, so more kind of personal circumstances than anything else. And then fast forward to when I had my kids, and working the day job just wasn't kind of gelling with that. I decided to dive really deep into starting my own business, something that could sustain me going forward. So now I run an e-com business. It's not upcycled products, it's products I've designed myself. They're baby gifts, but I have other people make them for me. And I've done really well with it. I sell on other people's websites, Amazon, Etsy, and I managed to replace my full-time income with that, and I get to just put my kids in daycare 2 days a week instead of 5, which was kind of what I was looking for out of it. It's also given me the time to pursue my real passion, which is making, crafting, upcycling. So I get to run the blog, work with small businesses who do upcycling as well, and it's just been great. But obviously, I can't help but think what would have happened back when I had Heirlooms Headpieces, my upcycling business, if I'd known all of the marketing, the sales techniques, the stuff about listings, where to sell, how to find your customer, all of that stuff when I had that business instead of this one. I thought I could probably help some of you who I know are makers as well to take what I've learned from the e-com world, where frankly you get a lot more support and help and advice on how to sell than you do in the kind of handmade maker space for some reason. Anyway, so I want to take some of that knowledge, bring it to you guys, so you have a fighting chance at turning your passion and your business into your livelihood. So I hope you'll join me to find out more. Total transparency, I will be telling you about my new course at the end of this free training, but this next half hour is totally free. So let's get started. Okay, so there's obviously lots involved in running a successful business, but there are some key tenets that if you get those right, you're more likely to succeed than not. The first one that I want to go over today is this concept of niching down, or some people call it finding your niche. It depends on which part of the world you're from and how you pronounce it, but it's basically the concept that you can't be all things to all people. So I know that's really hard for makers and crafters. I get it. I love to do lots of things. I love to make lots of things. My head is always going in different directions. If you're a bit creative and you're trying to run a creative business, you can't help but think you could sell all of the things. But it's really, really hard to speak to all of the people, to advertise on, if you're doing a whole range of different things, if you're making jewelry and bags and painting furniture, that's 3 different markets. You know, it's really, really hard for you to get in front of your ideal customer if they don't know what you specialize in. So what you really need to do is take a look at what it is you're really good at, what it is that people ask you about, what it is people want you to make for them, what it is you've maybe sold in the past, even if it's just 1 or 2. And that might be the place to start. Does it mean that you can't do anything else ever? No. But you need to learn how to walk and how to do that really, really well before you can run and multitask in multiple directions and do all the things. So you can always add more strings to your bow, but if you just run yourself ragged trying to build a business that's trying to do too many things for too many people at one time, you just won't get anywhere with that. And I think this piece is really, really key. If you don't listen to anything else I say today, please listen to this bit. You really need to pick a niche, at least to start out, and stick with it. And that's going to help you develop every other piece that I'm going to talk about that's going to help you to grow your business in the future. The second tenet of a successful online business, upcycling or otherwise, is keyword research. A keyword is not one word. It's usually between 2 and 4 words, sometimes 5. It's basically a phrase that somebody is typing into Google, Amazon Handmade, Etsy, Folksy, whatever platform you might be selling on, and is the phrase they're using to try and find what they're looking for. So, for example, if I'm a customer and I've got something in my mind that I want to buy a necklace of a certain style, and I'm describing it in the search that I'm putting in as a boho statement necklace. And I'll know what I want when I see it, but that's the phrase I think best describes it. Now conversely, you sell what it is that I've got in my mind's eye, but instead of calling it a boho statement necklace, you've called it a purple occasion wear choker. Okay, so we're not going to find each other. You haven't used the phrase that I typed in, so I'm never going to find that necklace that you sell that I want to buy. So you're kind of doing yourself out of a sale, and you're doing the customer out of, finding what they want, which is your great products, or, if you're this necklace maker. So it's really important to do the keyword research and get that all down. You can use free tools like Google Keyword Finder. That's one, and there's loads of others. I'm happy to dive deeper on that with folk, and in fact, that's one of the things we get into in the course that I'm going to talk about a bit later. But key. So we had the first tenet was niching down, knowing what you're selling, and the second one is about how are people describing that thing that you are selling, and make sure you're using the same words that they are. Okay, so the third area that I want to talk about today is pricing and profits. Too often, creatives, makers, upcyclers don't price their products the right way. They sell them too cheaply, right? I guess when you're upcycling, you might fall into the trap of thinking, well, the thing that I started with, whether it's a brown piece of furniture or a torn piece of clothing or broken jewelry, nobody wanted it. It doesn't have a value, so it doesn't have a cost. But obviously, there is a cost to making what you make. There'll be materials. There'll be paint, thread, possibly wear and tear on some machinery that you use, and there'll be your time. And all of those things need to be accounted for in your price. But that's not the only thing that needs to be accounted for in your price. That's just break even, right? That's not going to, so even if in there you're accounting for your time, that's not going to be enough to make your profit, your business grow, okay? You also need to build in a profit margin, and that profit margin needs to take into account all the other costs, the kind of overheads that you have to run your business, as well as advertising. And yes, you need to spend on advertising. That's how you get in front of your customers. If you don't spend anything at all, whether that's a Facebook ad, an on-site ad for Amazon or Etsy, or even, back in the days of going to craft fairs, the cost of that booth, that's your advertising cost for that. That's how you get in front of those customers to make the sale. And that cost needs to be in your price as well. That's the one I find most people don't build in. And then when they go to sell, they say, oh, well, Etsy fees are too high. and I can't afford to advertise. Well, that's because your pricing's wrong. So you need to look at that. I've got a whole framework for that. There's a free cheat sheet on the website already you can download on that, and I do obviously a deeper dive on that in the course that I'm going to tell you about at the end of this. But there is that free resource, so make sure you download that if you haven't already. The next thing I want to talk about, which is specific obviously to selling your products online, is your product listing. So I've talked about advertising a bit before, but there's loads to go into with advertising, and loads of different ways to do that depending on your niche and your customer. But there's no point spending money on advertising if you haven't got your basic product pricing and your listing down. So your listing needs to be full of those fabulous keywords we already talked about. Your product photography needs to be amazing. And the quality of your product needs to kind of compete and measure up with other folk. You need to have done a bit of competitor research, see whether there's a way you could either describe it or change it to make it more competitive. And just make sure you're putting your best foot forward with those listings. And I've got loads and loads of resources that you can do to take a deeper dive on that. But you need to be looking at the photography first off, because most people don't read the listings, by the way. The keywords are important because when you put them in the search, that's how they get up in front of you on the search. But after that, it's all about the photos. So the photos need to be amazing. And then the description needs to be clear and full of those keywords to make your listing easier to find for your customer. And then your pricing needs to, 1, cover your costs, and 2, be competitive. So sometimes that means there's a choice between what you're selling, what it makes sense to sell, what you can be profitable at and what you can't. So that's again a sort of decision-making thing that has to happen for you. But that's a key piece to focus on. Your listings, if you're on Etsy, you need to be looking at making sure you use all 13 of those keyword tags that they give you. If you're on Amazon Handmade, there's another area for back-end keywords that you need to make sure you're using. So there's just loads to cover really on listings, but don't ignore it. Don't just think it can be good enough. You can just have an okay photo and an okay description. That's not going to help you. So you need to really focus on that listing before you spend any money on advertising and driving traffic to those. Okay, so the question I get asked most by small business owners is, how do I grow my Instagram following, my Facebook following? How do I grow on social media and get customers? Well, I've got a whole lot of tips and tricks for using lots of different kind of social media platforms that I do go into in the course, but I also go on at length about how I don't think that actually is the best place for you to be using your time. If you are a total extrovert, you love videoing yourself, you love spending hours on social media, then you probably can make that work. But it's hard. And it's hard because people don't generally go on social media to purchase things. They don't go on and search on Instagram, on Facebook for the thing they want to buy someone as a birthday present. They're just scrolling. And when they end up buying, it's called sort of interruption marketing. So someone's put a Facebook ad out or a really over-the-top video where they're dancing and they get your attention, and then you start following them, and then they have a sale, and then maybe you buy something. But that's a lot of work because you're only going to get a small percentage of those folk to actually convert to buyers. Whereas if you spend your time learning how to use whatever online platform it is that your customer gravitates towards, so some of them will shop more on Etsy, some of them will shop on Amazon Handmade, some of them might just search on Google, some of them might go to small independent shops, in which case you might need to be focusing on wholesalers. So it'd be better, I think, to focus your time on learning that one key platform where your customer actually shops. So, and then you'd be learning the keywords that they use, learning how to advertise on that platform, learning how to optimize listings on that platform. And that's going to get you most of the sales because someone else is getting the traffic. So if it's Amazon, they get tons of traffic. Etsy, folksy, they advertise to get traffic to them as well. Even if you're selling to one of these, there's like online wholesale marketplaces. So you're putting your products inside small independent shops. Well, those shops are the ones who are driving the traffic inside the shop. So you don't have to do all of that. Whereas if you're focusing on social media, you're trying to drive them into presumably your own website. And the advertising costs for that can just be so much higher because the people who are going there weren't intentionally going there to shop. Whereas when they go to one of these other places, a physical shop, Amazon, Etsy, wherever else you're selling online, they meant to go and shop. So they're more likely to buy from you if they feel like shopping, essentially. So that's where to be spending your time and your energy. How do you get good at that? Yes, you need a presence on social media, but social media is not the place, especially if you're just starting out, to be focusing the majority of your time trying to get sales. It's a hard slog, and it's never going to add up to enough sales to make it more than a tiny little hobby business, side hustle kind of thing. So I think that's a really important thing to keep in mind. If you're just starting out, just focus on one social media platform, the one where your customers hang out. Everywhere else, establish a minimal presence and don't spend too much time on it. So I just want to recap what I think the 5 things are that I really think you need to be focusing on if you're just starting out with your upcycling business. So first off is to narrow down what it is you're selling. Don't sell everything. So you're niching down and you're trying to think about who is that person who wants to buy what you're selling. So you're trying to define who your customer is and getting as specific as you can with that. Then you're going to do your keyword research. So those specific people, how do they specifically talk about your products? Then you're going to get your pricing nailed down and make sure you're covering your costs and leaving some profit and room for advertising. Then you're going to get your product listings totally optimized. They're going to have keywords in them, amazing photos. You're going to have this amazing product that's described really well. And you're going to learn how to advertise that wherever it is that you've chosen to sell online. And lastly, you're going to use social media for that minimum presence. And maybe to drive some traffic to wherever it is you're listing online, but you're not going to obsess about it or think that that's the be all end all. You're going to focus on what's really, really important for your business. So if you take nothing else from today, please take that kind of pathway in mind. There is a worksheet that you can download that goes along with it, summarizes this so you can keep track of where you are on that process. And if you do want to dive deeper into it, I'm going to have my new 5-week course starting up really, really soon. It's only going to be open for registration for a few days. So if you are interested, leave me your email address and I will let you know when that opens. So just to give you a few more details on the course that I'm going to be opening soon. This is the one I've been working on all year. I basically poured everything that I learned in my successful e-com business that I think would have been applicable to me as an upcycling business in the past, and to, of course, all the upcycling businesses that I've been speaking to and consulting with as I've worked at Upcycle my stuff, because I do get asked kind of the same questions over and over. So I've distilled that all down into 5 modules that roughly cover kind of the 5 areas that I've talked about today. And then those are going to come in video lessons, and then there's going to be live Q&A calls to get any sort of burning questions answered. And then there's a whole stack of bonuses of things that I was like, I just can't leave that out. So that's things like shipping, commission work, time management, setting up your business kind of legally, picking your name, your logo, trademarks. There's a deep dive on Amazon advertising. It's called pay-per-click, Amazon pay-per-click advertising. And in the course proper, there's stuff like that for Etsy as well. So there's loads of bonuses. I can't remember them all. I'll list them below anyways. But that was, all the bonuses are really about kind of, you're all going to be at slightly different places on your journey and you'll need different things. So it's about kind of, you can pick and choose what you need from that. So that hopefully we cover what everybody needs to kind of make your, I just really want to help you make your passion, your craft, your upcycling into a business. The more successful you are, the more you'll be flying the flag for upcycling and not wasting things. And, I hate the idea of people being stuck doing things that they're not super passionate about for their livelihood. I really want to help see you become a success. So I hope to see some of you in there. But if not, I really hope that what we talked about today in this short little class has helped you out and helped you figure out where to start and not get kind of sidetracked with some of the things that tend to pull your attention that maybe shouldn't. So I've enjoyed it, and I hope you have too, and I'll talk to you soon.